Pedro Loureiro, at pedromaclourelro on Instagram, is a Portuguese artist with a background on architecture. He has, like many architects, an amazing line quality to his work, especially when he's doing urban pieces. However, his watercolor painting skills and his knowledge of the human figure are amazing. If you are intrigued by how he combines a variety of skills, please join us today as we talk about the role of seemingly unrelated art skills in your growth, how style comes to life, practical exercises to improve your observational drawing skills, what to do when you don't feel like drawing, dealing with the imposter syndrome, and tips on getting started with watercolor. Want to be part of the show? Then send in your questions or topics you'd like to see covered to our email at hello@etralab.com. If you send us an audio recording, we might include it in the episode. Hi, I'm Anya, and this is Make More Art, a podcast by Etra, meant to inspire you to keep on creating. Now let's hear from our guest. Pedro, you're Portuguese like me, finally.
Yeah, I am, yeah.
Finally, a Portuguese dude in the show. I have a couple of questions for you, and I always say a couple, a bajillion of questions for you. But the first one, I'd like you to tell me a little bit about yourself and where you come from. So when did you first fall in love with art? Let's start there.
Okay, well, it's hard to say because it's probably not a pinpointed moment in time, but it's like more or less like a period of time probably. But I've been doing art since I can remember. Of course, I think like all of us, and like it's kids always draw. Kids spend a lot of time drawing, and it's only after we get to teen years that we lose that ability. Some of us lose that ability, or at least lose interest in it.
Why? Now I'm interrupting you before I forget that. Why do you think that happens? What's with the teens that makes people just stop making art?
I think it's because, I'm going to recycle a thought that I heard a Spanish illustrator talk about. He addressed the same issue, and I think it has to do with getting serious. Like art is not viewed as a serious activity by the teen years, or either by peer pressure, or by family pressure, or by society pressure, or whatever. And yeah, so it's not seen as a serious activity.
So
and that's, I guess.
Do you think that when we turn 13, 14, then in that stage of our lives, because at least in Portugal we start high school at age 15, do you think that's when you start getting pressure from either family or friends to just be serious about something? And of course it's never art because that's playtime.
Yeah, I guess so. But luckily for me, it wasn't my case actually, because my parents were very encouraging. I actually didn't take art school in high school. I did sciences, and I still went into a semester of mathematics, applied mathematics, before skipping to architecture.
Just a side note, because I know high school varies a lot between countries. So just so everyone knows what we're talking about, in Portugal, when you go to high school age 15 till 17, 18, and then you go to college/university, you pick a field to specialize in. And usually if you have no idea what you want to do, you might go to science because it's very broad. We have like languages, and art is one of the fields. And you say you did not go to art then in high school.
I did not go to arts.
Wow.
I was more interested in math and science. I wanted to be like a NASA scientist or whatever, or a biologist. Or, I don't know, some kind. I guess the other facet of losing interest in art is that because you start to get interested in other matters, and just like let go of art for a while. Maybe we'll get back to it later, which happened to me, fortunately. But but by then I was interested in, it was like X-Files era, so I was interested in exploring aliens and trying to find if there was life on other planets.
And what happened? So you were like all science, and I mean, even in Portugal, it's so hard to to follow the art path? Because at least I grew up thinking that being an artist in Portugal was going to the streets to do caricatures and that was it. Or you were an architect and you actually, but we'll get there. So you finished high school, you loved art, but you went to science, right? And then...
And then I wasn't feeling very fit in the science thing, or at least in the math thing. So I started thinking about what drove me, before high school, before all that, and it was like drawing. It was art. It was drawing, and so I just got a few pointers from my family saying, okay, maybe you should take architecture or something, and I decided to take that shot, and soon after I was I was in architecture and finishing on the degree, an architecture degree.
So what is the background of your parents? I'm very curious now.
Well, my father is a historian, so he didn't run in that side of the family. My mother is a little bit more artsy. She actually took the graphic design degree while I was taking the architecture degree. So we were on a race, step by step.
That's so awesome. So your mom and you went to school kind of together at the same time, not the same school, I gather.
Yeah,
I don't know.
At the same time.
That's
so
cool. Now I want to interview your mom. That's another whole topic I want to discuss, like pursuing your passion after 40, 50, something like that. It's super admirable. Okay, so architecture. Interesting that your mom was like architecture for you, and I'm gonna do graphic design. So you were aware of the possibilities?
No, not at all. I mean, I didn't even know what architecture was all about. It was like almost like a blind date with an education with a college degree. Let's see how this works out, and because it was like the most obvious choice if you wanted to, if you were good at arts, it's either fine arts or architecture, and I wasn't really interested in fine arts.
Yeah, well, just to share like story time. My mom tried to nudge me into architecture as well. Because when I went to high school, I'm like, I'm gonna go into arts. I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I know it's art related. So in high school, I'm gonna go with arts. And my mom was like, oh, you can be an architecture. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know what that's about. Oh, but to be an architecture, you can actually go to science to get the math and all of that. Because when you go to art in high school, you don't get a lot of math. In my case, it was either math or art history. And I'm like, art history.
Art history.
Tough choice. And
I would math. I would actually go for math.
Oh, I'm sorry. So different people, different choices, all valid. Yeah, I did go. I didn't know that it was either A or B. So I did apply for math, and I did the first year of math because art history was only in the second year of high school. But my grades were terrible. I'm not great at math. I terrible. I suck at math. And then I found out that I could actually do art, and I love art history and I love history, so I switched. But my mom tried to nudge me into architecture until I realized I like to draw, but I don't like to draw with that amount of restraint and measurements, and that sounds a lot like drawing with math. And it kind of
that's a very accurate
oh my god, teenage old me was so smart.
It's art with math, and a little bit of social sciences and a little bit of history and a little bit of this and that. But yeah, that's very accurate. Oh, actually, I'm being unfair in regards to my father, because he had I almost forgot this. I don't believe how I almost forgot this. My dad had a huge collection of comic books. And that's what got me into sketching, or what got me through my teen years of sketching. So I almost forgot about sketching. Was it not for the comic books that my father had?
What comic books were you reading back then?
Well, mostly European stuff, like Tintin and Lucky Luke, Asterix, those classics, those Franco-Belgian classics. Later in life, later in my teen years, Corto Maltese, so the Hugo Pratt, the Italian Venetian author. So I was never into the American comics, superhero or all that. I was never much into manga, which I got into much later in life, like in my 30s. But yeah, I think comic books was like actually the foundation of my art curiosity or my art interests.
That's so cool. Okay, comics. Comics were what just ignited your passion for art, and I love when that happens. I just love when that happens. Creators creating creators. Okay, this is so cool. So
comics kept the flame alive. I think more than igniting, it kept it alive throughout the teenage years where I was interested in other stuff, and like comic books just kept the torch lit until I got to a place where I could be interested in art again, I guess, which was architecture.
Wow. And what made you go? I mean, so you just said you were kind of blind dating architecture. You didn't know what it was much about, and it seemed like an easy, maybe the word I'm looking for is not easy, but maybe obvious.
Obvious. It was the obvious choice, I guess. It was like half, like you said, half math, half art, and half other things. Yeah. So three halves.
For anyone who claims that artists are terrible at math, there you go. Pedro is the exception to the rule. He's good at math. He's great at drawing.
I used to be good actually, but then I kind of lost it. But I like the I was very moved, and I could see a lot of myself in Uma's podcast.
Yeah, the episode with Uma.
That she's an engineer, so I met Uma before many times, and I identify quite a lot with her in that term. And like there's something about math and engineering that it makes like the world a more elegant place in a way. It's like the whole concept of the whole concept of the art is to make like the optimal equation to describe something, and if I can apply that to art, even better. With my very little math.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned Uma's podcast. And by the way, if you don't know what we're talking about, you can listen to Uma's episode at etcherlab.com/Uma. That's UMA. I saw your comment on Uma's podcast episode, and you were like, finally, someone who's lazy like me. What does that mean?
That just means if you think about it, probably the calculator wasn't invented by a very laborious person. It was invented by a lazy person that wanted something else to make the math for them. So I don't want to deal with these equations and this math. Let's just make a machine that takes care of it. That's it. It's laziness for you.
Yeah,
it's like creating things to make them work for you.
Yeah, I read this somewhere. I can't remember where, but maybe it was a comic strip. I don't know, because when you read things and you imagine the what you're reading, so you don't know if you read a text or if you actually saw a comic. But anyway, so I was reading this somehow, and it was about this factory, and they were having loss, like they were not making as much money because some of the boxes were empty. And they were shipping empty boxes, and no one was figuring that out, and so that was horrible. It caused a lot of stress. So their solution was to hire more people to check the boxes, and they also came up with a super complex system where if the box, I can't remember it quite well, but it was something that it would make a lot of noise if the box met a certain condition. So one day they were worried because the noise stopped showing up, like no noise whatsoever. They couldn't hear, like, oh my God, the machine is broken. We spent so much money on this machine. What's going on? And when they got there, they saw a worker chilling with a fan blowing the boxes. If the box fell, it was empty. So problem solved. And like, how did you find that? Like, did you figure this out? I'm like, I was tired of hearing the freaking noise, so I just came up with something.
It's like a niche. If you scratch, then it's everything is okay. Yeah. So it's. I guess that can be described loosely as laziness, but no, not quite. But it's like an easy shortcut to describe the feeling you get out of creating something or inventing something that solves a problem that you don't have to deal with again.
Yeah.
Or at least for a long time.
Like that famous quote, creativity is intelligence having fun.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
Okay,
so you started... Sorry, go ahead.
Art challenges me a little bit in that sense, because like it takes a lot of practice and it takes a lot of time to properly finish a sketch. I mean, if I'm doing like an 8-hour illustration, it's going to take like 8 hours. There's no way around it. So that kind of challenges this laziness that I feel. So it kind of I live in between these two modes of operation, so to speak.
I would have never imagined that after looking at your work, which we will talk about in just a second, because I can't wait to hear more about it. So yeah, you went to architecture, and I mean, what next? Because I see a lot of your architectural knowledge in your art, so I'm trying to find a connection here.
Okay, so I took architecture, and there was in this particular course there was a lot of emphasis on history and social sciences, and not so much on arts, and not so much on the fine arts. There was one subject of drawing for 2 years, and that's where I fell in love with drawing again, because the teacher reprogrammed me. From my comic book template, or from my comic book default to fine arts default. As to say, it's like we did a lot of blind contour drawing, basically, and that would kind of deprogram my installed software, my previously installed software, and that got me into sketching actually what I was seeing, like what I was seeing with my own eyes instead of with my mind. And that got me into art again, basically.
So before college, I mean, I know you were in love with comic books and that helped you keep the flame on, but were you drawing before starting college?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I was, making caricatures of my colleagues or my friends. Making my small doodles on the sides of the most boring classes. And that was it. That was basically it. I wasn't doing much else. I was like copying from time to time. I would like copy some images that I would see on comic books. So, like my default for sketching was comic books, was comic-y.
Okay. 2 things. One, every teacher out there, sometimes doodling helps us keep focus, okay? It's not just because the class is boring. It's a way, maybe it is boring, but it's a way for us to, stay interested in listening. I'm just trying to save the artsy kids out there. Okay, point number 2.
Sorry, former teachers.
Oh my goodness. Point number 2. Can you talk a little bit about what is it to draw in a comic-y, cartoony way, and the difference between fine art?
Okay.
So what was?
So I think I'm not sure if it's fine art, if I'm using the correct term, fine art, but it was like this transition that occurred was mostly tutored by my drawing professors in college, and it was going from one very stereotypical way of drawing, which is like comic books, where you get shortcuts to draw a character. Like you oversimplify reality in order to convey a message, in order to convey a story. And in the fine arts mode that I got into when I was doing blind contour drawing and everything, I was actually sketching what I saw. Like I was sketching that exact thing that I saw, the exact object that I saw, or the person that I saw. Not like making up any features, or not simplifying too much.
Mm-hmm. Not stylizing anything, just pure. Yeah. Observational painting and sketching, and
so suddenly things were what they were. Like the things that I drew what they were: the people, the buildings, the spaces, and everything. And I got to sketch from reality, which didn't happen before.
Do you think that informed your cartoony style? Did you abandon that cartoony style altogether? Because when I see your art, when I look at your art, you're an urban sketcher. You draw and you paint what you see, yet you loved cartoony stuff. So just thinking, I'm putting myself in the shoes of someone who loves comic-y stuff. Do you think that kind of foundational practice is necessary to stylization?
It's an option. But it's definitely helped me later in life, because if I didn't have the comic booky thing before, I wouldn't be able to sketch like I do now. So like when I got into college, I got away from all that, to later get back to it with a different mindset. So I got back my comic-y style, but adapted it to my new thing. So it's like you blend and you blend and you blend and you blend until like it's always you. It's always your identity. But like you add a little bit of something, you add a little bit of this guy or this reference or this school of art, or you keep adding to yourself, and that becomes the later you, I guess.
And that's why style is something that keeps changing and not something that is forever, because you keep evolving as a human being and as an artist, so it grows with you.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, it was very important to not look for a style, because when you start searching a style, then you put yourself under a lot of stress, and you put barriers in yourself. So it's like, if you take for instance, if I take a workshop, I would completely try to imitate the person that is teaching the workshop, not do something that I usually do. Like let's fail according to this person's instructions, and let's see what that gets to me later in 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years.
Wise choice, because you will learn something new that you will inevitably adapt into your workflow, because your body is used to something new, and it will somehow make it fit with your whole style. Quote unquote thing. Oh my god!
Exactly. And the body analogy is very good, because it's like you use your hands to sketch, you use your eyes to sketch. These are all parts of your body, and then you use your mind to interpret, which is like the mind part also comes in. So it's like a body-mind thing connection.
Awesome. Thank you for. Sometimes I come up with analogies without explaining them. We're a good combo. Art. Okay, so you finished college.
Yeah.
You're working as an architect now, as an artist. What is happening now?
So I did work as an architect for 5, 6 something years. Then I went. Then the crisis hit, and no more architecture for anyone, or for most people.
What year was that?
Sorry?
What year was that when you finished your degree?
I finished in 2006, and I started working in 2006 or 7, 6, and so the crisis hit in 2008. I still endured a little bit of it until 2011 or something, and then I started to, question the whole architecture thing. Is this for me? Is this not for me? Because it was getting very complicated. It was getting very hard to get jobs. I was working in a small architecture office with my partner, and there wasn't enough work for us to keep us around. Me and my girlfriend decided, okay, I have some family in Sweden. Let's just try there, and we went there for a couple of years, working in the restaurant business. And that's where I think that was like the most revolutionary periods of my art life. If there is any pinpoint where I can say that my illustration career started, was there. It was the move to Sweden.
How? This is amazing. How? So you went to Sweden, you stopped architecture, your love for art was still present, Because you
Yeah, more than
practicing?
ever, because also I'm being unfair again, because I skipped one part of my art life, which is the urban sketches, of course. When the urban sketches started in 2008 or 2009, I keep forgetting. And in Portugal, it started in 2010, and I joined soon after. And I started going into these meetings of people that were sketching in the street, and I felt really identified with that. And okay, this is my thing now. Let's do this all day. And this was like the escape bubble that from the whole other thing, the architecture thing.
So when you
Of
went
course,
to Go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah.
So when you went to Sweden, did you stay in touch? I mean, because Urban Sketchers, they have chapters all around the world. So
Yeah.
when you went to Sweden, did you connect with the sketchers there, or did you do your own thing?
I did connect to sketchers there, but it was in the southern region of Sweden, and there were not a lot of sketchers there, and they were all scattered around. So it was like four
Hmm.
sketches. I met them all, and after that we didn't meet often. So, but now there's a chapter going on, a little bit more active chapter going on now, close to the place where I used to live. But yeah, I've always kept in touch with urban sketchers, if not in person, at least digitally, because I kept posting in the Urban Sketchers Portugal blog and keeping in touch with the people back here, back
Oh,
home.
cool. I need to check that out. Okay, awesome. 2 years in Sweden, came back, and it wasn't in Sweden that the art became more real.
Yeah, it was that's when art became a profession and a career,
Ah, how? Tell
because I
me.
was working
Tell
in
us
the
everything.
restaurant only lunchtime restaurant only. So I would get out at 4 p.m. and I still had time to sketch a lot. So there was a lot of free time for us to travel around the country, travel around the region, and to sketch and to go to parties and just draw out the sketchbook and start sketching people. And that's where opportunities start to arise
Wait,
because,
wait, wait. You go to parties to sketch people?
yeah, of course.
I'm not the only one.
This.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Every time I go to parties with a bunch of people, I don't know, I have my sketchbook like, what are you doing? I thought you were a social butterfly. I'm like, yeah, but this is so pretty.
No,
Okay.
no, no. This is my way of talking. This is my way of talking to people. I used to be I still am a little bit introvert, very introvert. So when I went to parties, I didn't talk to people. I just sketched them. And then, like people get interested, and then I start talking in my own turf, so to speak.
There you go. Controlling the territory.
Yeah.
Everything like you want it to be. That's a really gold tip. Like the title of this podcast is like how to pretend to be an extrovert, how to control a conversation when you're an introvert. There you go.
But not wanting to actually, it was like it was just the one thing knew how to do. So
Wow.
it just happened. And like the first job that I ever got in Sweden was the first illustration job that I ever got to Sweden was sketching a rehearsal for a local band, and that was it. And then soon after, like similar jobs started to appear, and I was getting paid to sketch, and that was like, wow, I can do this.
And now you're a full-time artist?
Now, when I got back to Lisbon, I got in touch with the urban sketchers again, and one of them, my coworker and colleague in arms, or colleague in pens, I should say, he was already, when I got back, he was already working as an illustrator in a major architecture firm. And soon after I joined him, thanks to his connection, Pedro Alves,
Uh-huh.
and also Pedro.
Yeah, the other Pedro.
So
You
yeah,
should talk to
and
that
then
kid too.
it's been 6 years. So what we do is like we
Yeah.
sketch all day long. Basically, we sketch. Basically, architects want to pitch their ideas and their spaces, the spaces that they design, to clients, and that's where we come in. We make the plans and the elevations and the cross sections and the 3D models appealing in an intermediate phase of the design.
So your background is perfect for this job because not only you speak architectural language. You
Architecture-ish.
architecturalish. There you go. New word today. Yes, I'm meeting my daily made-up word quota. So not only you speak architecturalish, you also draw. So it's better of both worlds. They don't have to. I don't want to say dump things down, but if it was me, they would have to dump things down. They don't have to explain you in normal commoner terms how to do the drawing. They just like, oh, this is the blah blah blah, to throw architecturalish words here, and you're like, oh yeah, totally get it. Yeah, I'll get you the sketch by the end of the week, and there you go.
Yeah, and it's quite useful. I should say it was even necessary to get the job, because otherwise it would be it's very difficult for a non-architect to illustrate architecture. It's still possible, of course, but there's a lot of watercolorists out there who also do like those awesome perspectives.
Yeah.
But I would say it's a key requirement.
Yeah, you have to speak architecturalish.
Architecture-ish, and because sometimes the design is not complete, so there are voids in the design. So we use our experience to fill in those voids, basically.
Wow.
So there's this is not this part is not yet quite defined. This part is not yet quite developed. So let's just put some things here that connect to the whole design and everything, and sometimes those things actually stay in the design until the end. So
there you go. This is awesome. I didn't know that. Okay, so looking at your work, it looks like your favorite medium is watercolor. Is this accurate?
Yes, it is. Well, let's say it this way: I prefer sketching first with a pen.
Mm-hmm.
That's my my grounds. That's my ground. My foundation is sketching in ink and line, or line and ink, and watercolor came afterwards, and it's a nice complement. It's like the perfect balance for the ink for me.
Yeah. So for someone wanting to draw the same way you draw, which is ink, fountain pen ink drawing, and then watercolor on top, what would you say to them? How should they start? Any tips?
Yes. Well, technique-wise or material-wise, or both?
Both. Why not both?
Okay, let's go to technique-wise. And I'm going to draw a lot from my own learning experience, which is blind contour drawing is like key. It's like a key thing to handle, to fearlessly handle line work. So basically, with line contour drawing, I don't know if you know this, but for all the people that might not know, it's sketching without looking at the paper. So you're just sketching the person or the object or the model that you're sketching. So you spend a lot of time looking towards the person and not looking at the paper at all. This kind of disconnects the eye. So the only path that it's taken is like from the pen to the hand to the eye. No, the other way around. From the eye to the hand to the pen to the paper, and it doesn't go through your brain, because you don't know if you're sketching correctly or not. And this is like a huge boost to your confidence, to your line working confidence. It's quite hard to get into at first, but as you progress in it, you get more confidence, and suddenly you're just sketching directly with pen.
First, this is really cool because you can sketch people on the street with sunglasses and no one knows you're sketching them. You don't. That's like how to be a creep without being a creep. Is that exercise something you still do today?
I teach more than I do. Okay. So nowadays, well, I still do in a sense, because it's like when I'm sketching in the streets, or when I'm sketching, like if we were face to face and talking, and I might sketch you in a little bit. Let's see. But
if you do, we'll put that in the blog post.
But if we're just having a conversation, or like on a dinner table with a lot of people, I'm usually looking more at people than I'm looking at my own sketch. So in a sense, like I still do a little bit, but not completely, not like 100%. It was important to do 100% blind contour drawing in the first few times, or in the first 100 sketches, but then you kind of, okay, I've learned what I can from this, so now let's just move on to other things. But I still do teach whenever I'm teaching like a longer workshop, like a series of 4 or 5, 6 workshops. I always like to start with the line contour drawing, at least.
Okay, that does make sense. So even though you're not doing it yourself because you're teaching, you're always revisiting it, so it keeps the whole thing alive for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Which does make sense. Okay, that's a really good tip. And material-wise?
Material-wise, pen, and I usually use these nib pens now because they last a lifetime. And sometimes the nib is really flexible, so it's like you get more expression from that line. You get like thicker line or thinner line if you press more or less. And waterproof ink, of course, loaded up with waterproof ink because later you want to paint over it.
And it won't be pretty if it's not waterproof.
Yeah.
Someone once gave me a pen. Oh, this is waterproof ink. Do you want to try? And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. So I drew, then I grabbed the watercolors and everything's smudged. And I'm like, okay, this is not waterproof.
Yep. But it's still, you can still get away with it. It's just, I particularly don't like that muddy style, but you can get away with it.
Some people are amazing at making it work. Not me. Not me. I like to see the lines.
Some people in Southeast Asia, like Thailand, Malaysia, or something. A few guys out there that really insane techniques.
So true. You can do anything with anything.
Yep.
If you know how the thing works.
It's like there's those big pens, those roller pens, roller ball pens.
Yeah.
Bics, and they're great. They're great for toning. For there's amazing art with just rollerball pens.
Okay, and so once someone gets more comfortable with the drawing part, you only started watercolor afterwards. So how would you advise us to start with watercolor on our lines?
Okay, so I would. That was a longer trail for me because I started working with the watercolor like completely mindless of what watercolor was. So I spent years and years and years just painting by numbers. I just draw something, draw a shape, and then this shape is red, this shape is green, this shape is blue, this shape is yellow, and that is not how watercolor. Well, it can be used like that, but it's not at its best. So it's like if you want to soak up all that watercolor, all the power that watercolor has, you have to consider more like the concepts of value and of temperature and light and shadow and all of that. So you can start by painting by numbers, but then you should progress quickly, quicker than I at least. I just wasted, well, not wasted, but I spent years and years and years painting by numbers when I could be doing other things. So I guess it was important, but anyway. But quickly jump as an advice. Quickly jumped to these other more visual concepts, more arty concepts like value, intensity, light, shadow, and all that.
Do you think that maybe starting with 1 or 2 colors tops would help? Because you're focusing more on actually getting the watercolor to work than figuring out colors, which is a whole new.
Yeah, definitely. If you reduce your palettes to 1 or 2 colors, then you have a better chance of learning what the true powers of those colors are.
And if you'd like to see Pedro painting, we have a live demo with him. We had a live demo with him. We will have him again. We had a live demo with Pedro a while back. I will link to everything on the blog post associated with this episode at etcherlab.com/Pedro. We also have a workshop with Pedro. I think we have a workshop recording up for sale. And Pedro, you will be back soon to do more classes, more workshops, and more stuff with us, I assume. So stay tuned to what's coming with Etcher Lab. Subscribe to our calendar. Again, all links will be on the post. And we will keep you posted on the new stuff that Pedro will create with us. And just follow Pedro for actually really, really cool stuff that he's doing, even outside of Etcher. two more questions before we wrap up. So, can you tell me about the biggest struggle you had to face while learning how to paint with watercolors and ink?
Well, I'm not a drama person, so I can't pinpoint any major particular drama, but I think the transition to watercolor. And it's like,
I'm not a drama person. Everything's chill, always good, didn't work. It's part of the process, keep moving. And I'm like, when I fail, I'm like, I suck. I can't paint for my life.
No, I do suck. Well, I do feel like I suck sometimes.
No.
But you know, like everybody feels this in the arts world. No matter how good or, you know, like more less experienced they are. But everybody feels that, you know, like the imposter syndrome, you know, like all that happens to everybody. So, yeah, that goes around. But I guess I don't know. I don't do it actively, but I just don't let it affect me that much. But I couldn't suggest a way of doing this or a technique of doing this. It's just that it's not in me to over dramatize.
Then let me ask you this: how you do not dramatize this whole thing?
I just go to sleep or play video games or watch TV or do something else, and then just get back to it tomorrow.
There you
Maybe
go.
Tomorrow will be better, I guess.
There you go.
It's
That's
like
a
close
really
shop,
good way.
go home, go sleep.
That's a really good way to do it.
Out.
What I do, just to share more, like, and this is going to be my question for you at the end of the episode, is what do you do when you feel depressed with art? I grab whatever if I want to draw, whatever it feels like drawing, even if it's just, you know, some super loose ink sketch and like guilty pleasure kind of thing that I would not post on my wall, but it just makes me feel good, and I do it, get the dopamine kick, and then I keep on working on the thing. It works all the time. Also video games.
Also video games, yeah.
Video games.
But I think maybe like the most difficult thing was to incorporate was you know, actual artistic watercolor, which is like a recent endeavor. I started taking watercolor classes with a few local masters, and that's been a major shift, because it's like that's where I really felt I was inadequate, like for a few months, you know, like for a big chunk of time. You know, I was like, oh damn it, I cannot make this work no matter how hard I try. And I tried until last April I did my first watercolor exhibition from home, because it was already pandemic and quarantine. I think that was like the lowest and then highest
Wow.
that I felt in art, which was, you know, like breaking the barrier from urban sketching to a whole new dimension, which is watercolor, or artistic watercolor. Can you say?
Yeah, which is something you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation before we started recording, is that you took a chance, I mean, the opportunity, since we're in the middle of a pandemic for freaking year, and you just decided to, since I cannot go outside and urban sketch as much as I did before, why not take the opportunity of this year and just do something different, and let's see how that will inform my art later.
Yeah,
so
exactly. So watercolor, one of the
smart.
Like, I tried as much as possible to imitate the masters, and then adapting their techniques to my own work, you know, and make like a series of watercolors. And I started also live drawing sessions with models online, which was also a big thing during the pandemic. There's all sorts of groups doing organizing model sessions, Zoom model sessions, which is amazing. It's also a good learning opportunity.
Cool. Any last words before we wrap up?
Let's see. I guess I would just have to, you know, I think these like podcasts or these conversations are a little bit like tiny checkpoints that you put in your career or your arts, you know, like your art line, your art timeline. And I have to say, these are really useful to put in words things that we are going through, like as artists. And it's really amazing to see. It's really amazing to have this opportunity to not only like putting our minds to a few words, but also to share that with everybody else.
And it's a wrap. So what did you think of the episode today? Let us know in the comment section of the post associated with this episode at etchrlab.com/Pedro. That's etchrlab.com/PEDRO. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, simply let us know in the comment section below. If you're enjoying the podcast, please help us keep the show alive. You can subscribe and give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts at etchrlab.com/go/Apple. Or if you're more of a YouTube viewer, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our most recent videos. Sharing is caring and every little bit helps. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Until then, let's make more art.